Hello, good morning, and welcome to Thoughts and Updates here in not so sunny Scotland. It is a bleak midwinter morning in December as we hurtle towards Christmas. Scotland has gone from a general lockdown in some areas into level 3. The 11 local authorities that were level 4 have now at least gone down to level 3. The difference seems to be that non-essential shops are opening up, but it looks as though we're hurtling towards a Christmas which perhaps is a little less dangerous than it was before. Of course, the worry is that when the easing happens at Christmas time, that there's then a third wave coming January, February. But we have a vaccine, which may well mean that this whole scenario is dealt with very, very positively. Certainly, again, roundabout, I know of many places where there are positive COVID tests. One school in North Ayrshire, which has gone into online learning in Wales. They've gone into online learning as well throughout the whole of that country. So it's still there. So this week, and I'll come back to the exams because it's a very important part of what I do. This week, writing has seen me muse for a ringside report about Rafael Solis, a fighter of the 1980s who fought Hector Macho Camacho for a world title. Also, the news that the Aberdeenshire Golf Resort, which is a Trump part of his large company, has lost its special status. So the development that up there has lost us something in Scotland. And also Mr. Trump being a vax person who has now gone off to suggest that he's responsible for the vaccine and the change and everything, whilst people are still stealing the election from him. For talking boys, last night was Anthony Joshua's world title defence against Kubrat Pulev with a devastating 9th round knockout. I've not watched the fight as yet. I've seen clips and I've heard plenty of opinions. Certainly what happened last night was not the equivalent of Tyson Fury against Deontay Wilder, not by a long stretch of the imagination, but he went in, did the job, came out victorious, and hopefully 2021 will see that boxing match up. And Martin Bakole, the Congolese fighter of Airdrie, also won against Sergey Kuzmin, which will please Billy Nelson, a colleague of mine at work, no end, because Billy is quite convinced that Bakole is a world champion in waiting. We also, for this week, took my scurrilous nonsense to govern, and I created the Grand Master Elf, Stevie G, who is spreading good cheer because of what he said about Billy Gilmer being a fabulous little player. So everything in Govan is fabulous. So that'll hopefully come out next weekend. And also the sad news that David Hopkin has left his managerial post at Greenock Morton, done so in order to save the club money, which, falling in your sword, is really something that it's not unusual within the footballing fraternity, but when it happens I always feel a little bit sad. And Hopkins is a guy that I have in the past for Kick Talk done a couple of interviews and always came across, particularly when I was at Livingston, as somebody who had something to contribute to the game. And also for Fringe Review this week, there's not been much for me to go, not much that I have reviewed this week or watched, but I would recommend Crypt Tales on the BBC iPlayer. I've also subscribed to hashtag We Shall Not Be Removed, which is Disability Arts UK attempt to get the recovery after COVID centred around some kind of new form, new formula, new format for those with a disability within the arts world. So plenty of stuff to come. Exams this week. John Swinney, the Education Secretary, announced that we were not going to have the Hires and Advanced Hires exams. Many within the education fraternity were unhappy that he'd taken so long to make this decision. Wales had cancelled all exams a while ago. Down in England, it's the only part of the United Kingdom, England and Northern Ireland, where exams are still extant. Described by many as the only fair way to assess people. No, it's not. Exams are not a fair way to assess anybody. They're a test of your memory, and certainly do test your application of your knowledge against something that is surprising. But the fact of the matter is that I have only once in my life been in a room without access to the information that I require or need in order to answer questions, and that was an academic interview process, which I didn't get because I don't do exams well. And there are a plethora of people, the length and breadth of the United Kingdom, who don't do educational bingo well. Exams are educational bingo. What happens is that you have 2 or 3 topics that you know particularly well and you hope they come up, and if they don't, you're scuppered, and if they do, you're going to get that A. To attempt some form of teacher-based assessment which is properly verified is by far and away the best way of assessing the competency of any pupil. We should move wholesale to that. Ditch the exams, get rid of National 5 and higher exams, because all that they do are cause incredible stress on people who don't do well in them. Whereas nurturing children and young people through their abilities to achieve something which happens to be at the top end of their achievement scale is far more a fair way of ensuring that we get children getting the success and young people gaining the qualifications that they deserve. The problem, of course, is that we would have to have a properly verified system. And that's one thing that we are at least trying to do with regards to the new form of assessment. But we get rid of that National 5 and higher through removing the National Assessment Bank in Scotland, which John Swinney did almost immediately after becoming the Education Secretary. It was a massive mistake in my view. What it has led to is we now no longer have assessments which were nationally agreed that could replicate the amount of knowledge that children and young people require to show in order to achieve qualifications within the context of assessment criteria that were universally agreed within the Scottish education system. And as long as they were kept to, those results were solid and valid, reliable, fair. After all, that's what they were set out to be. So we will go through this year without having any examinations for children to come in and stress sit. We will find what the true value of education is, hopefully, as we attempt to ensure that children and young people get what they deserved, not get what they may be lucky to achieve in an exam. But the future, we will go back. We shall return to the bingo that we've had for decades and believe somehow that we're being fair and honest. And when that happens, I can guarantee that the results that we're going to see in the Scottish education system are in the main going to be lesser than the ones that we are going to see this year. And certainly, as was proven last year, the grades that teachers put in for their children and young people were perhaps a little inflated in comparison to what they would have got during exam time. But that was accepted, so we've set a standard, and there is a norm. Scottish education has an opportunity, Welsh education, English and Northern Irish education has an opportunity to do something, and that is to make our education system fit for purpose. After all, one of the major things that you get, particularly in maths, is that you cannot look at the answers. Don't look at the back of the book, because that's where the answers are. Answer everything that you can, but don't cheat. Can you imagine being employed and your employer gives you a book that's the instructions to do something, and later on when he comes back and you've made a complete mess of it, that your excuse is, but I didn't look at the answers at the back of the book? How long are you going to be employed for? How long are we going to believe that somehow what we're attempting to do is create an education system and children and young people fit for the 21st century? With the amount of information at their fingertips, it's time to stop believing that the way it's always done was the best way to do it. So, from here I am in the not so sunny Scotland, and you can see life beginning across at the marina to emerge. It is bye from me for now. Until next time on Thoughts of Our Updates.